Hey everyone, this is Dungeons and Dragons and Drawing, and I'm Alex Delecta, and I'm here with
Maya Mills.
talking about her character.
Elynnyr.
What was life like for Elynnyr growing up?
So, growing up, I guess before he was even born, Elynnyr was born to an elven mother and a human father. But Elynnyr never met his father. The only thing he knew about his father was what his mother told him. And his mother would only ever say that he was a handsome, mysterious human who saved her one day during a raid on her village that was happening. And then they spent a night together and she never saw him again. So Elynnyr is half human, half elf, and he grew up with his mother in the high elf community where she lived. However, the high elves were not super accepting of outsiders, and Elynnyr obviously looked different from the rest of them, and everyone kind of knew what was going on with him. And they all would accept him, but they weren't really inclusive. They let Elynnyr live with them, but they didn't ever like try to invite him anywhere. They weren't super gracious and kind to him, and that even extended to his own family. I think his mom was always a little bit ashamed of him because he was living proof of her night spent with the human man. So he never really felt loved by his family, although he was grateful for the support that they gave him. So Elynyr's mom worked in the castle where the royal family lived as her job, and she would take Elynnyr with her to work. And Elynnyr happened to be about the same age, a little bit older, than the princess, the high elf princess, whose name was Flora. So Elynnyr and Flora became good friends. They would play together while Elynyr's mom did her job in the castle. And as they grew up, Elynnyr started doing more, to help around the castle, to help his mom out. And finally, after he was old enough, once he was a teenager, the royal family offered Elynnyr a job as Flora's guard or protector. Just really more of a companion, so that she could have someone with her, keeping her safe. So Flora and Elynnyr really became very close friends all throughout their childhood and into the teenage years. So Elynnyr was definitely around when Flora and Oz were, seeing each other and falling in love and all that. But Elynnyr didn't really officially meet Oz. He only ever heard about what Flora would tell him about Oz. So I assume if you've watched Oz's video, you kind of know a bit more of the backstory between the tieflings and the elves. Once Flora went to go live with Oz, Elynnyr was kind of out of a job because, he didn't need to protect Flora anymore. She was living with Oz, and she, unbeknownst to Elynnyr, had a child. So he was sort of left to figure out what he wanted to do next. And the past couple of years that he had been with Flora, he started to notice that, things would happen around him sometimes that he couldn't really explain. Maybe a little bit of fire would come out of his hands, or other strange things, and it scared him a little bit. He didn't really know how to control it, but he thought it might have something to do with his dad. So once Flora left to live with Oz, Elynnyr decided to leave the elven community that he grew up in, and he wanted to find himself. He wanted to learn how to control his magic better. It was difficult. Nobody that he knew very well could do magic. I'm sure there were wizards in the community he lived in, and but they had all gone to school and had studied and trained with their magic, and this was not something that he had studied for or really had any knowledge about. He just suddenly started experiencing weird things happening to him, and it scared him. It's not super convenient to just be doing your normal thing and suddenly some fire comes out of your hands, or I don't know, suddenly you make something levitate, that you don't mean to. So it freaked him out for sure, and he was worried that because of it he would be outcast even more by the elves. So he sort of tried to hide it for a while, but he quickly realized that it was very difficult for him to control the magic that was coming out of him, and it kept getting stronger as he got older. More and more things would start happening. Things would break randomly, or maybe he would accidentally turn one thing into another. So it scared him, and he wanted to get it under control, and he wanted to do that outside of the community where he grew up, because he knew that if he tried to do that while he stayed with the elves, it would just put more strain not only on him but on his mom and stepdad and the rest of his elven family. And he wanted to find his dad. He really didn't know anything about his dad though, so he kind of just wandered around for a few years aimlessly. He didn't really have survival skills because the elven community was always very elegant and refined. They survival skills wasn't really something that the elves would teach their young so much. So he had a bit of a rough time for a while, and then he decided he was going to sign up for the army, but specifically the army reserves, because Elynnyr was really not someone who was into conflict. He didn't really like hurting people or anything like that, but he wanted a bit of direction in his life, and he wanted the training and survival skills and other just general things that the army can teach you or the military can teach you. But he was recruited to fight in the war between the dwarfs and the orcs. He was not thrilled about that because, as I said, he was not really into combat so much, so he would always jump onto any kind of special assignments that were being given out. He tried to do more intelligence work and less actual combat. So that is where Elynnyr met the rest of our D&D group, was on one of those special assignments. So there you have it. That's Elynyr's kind of backstory.